예, 단대 코스트로
네.
예, 다 이제 디미니시 상계 야 세제 세제시 펜도시 이게 월치도 시미스트리네.
Right. So, okay, so the motivation for today is from today onwards, you need to like recognize or understand you are part of this Buddha lineage or you have this Buddha nature. And so from now on, we're going to be a benefit to sentient beings. So this should be your motivation.
Okay, now we do some maybe 2 minutes lifting. Now I'm here just listening. Your jobs just want to listen. My jobs just want to talk. I know just doesn't we have TV jobs. Another no holding your nothing. Just being present, enjoy, listening, happily listening, happily talking, happily dancing. Happy or not happy?
I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, pretty happy.
Pretty happy. Still in samsara, but yeah, okay for samsara.
다 먼저 드링 계제시 다 드링 방법 먼저 다 이게 먼저 공백이 트디션보다 먹진보다 죽스직도 와서라 공부하는가 인더스트리 이거 더 먼저 사제지 산지 이루와 산지 이루기 딱 공부서 또 가능한 시기요래 된저 가래 되어 계기요래 안에 냠스 렌장 림버 칸데 숨러시.
Okay.
디 숨여라디나.
Yeah, I got you. So today we're talking about like nature, right? Or the Tibetan word reg can also mean like family or class or something like that. But often in this situation, it's mostly translated as nature. So in the Seragompa, Luxor. So in Geshe-la's monastic monastery tradition, Sera Monastery, they have a certain format that they go about when they're talking about like things like this, right? So first they look to the sutras, which is the actual direct words of the Buddhas, and see what Buddha himself said about the subject. Then they look at the commentaries, the Tengyo or the commentaries by other masters, and see what they've said about it, and then they look at how to actually put it into practice. So that's probably not a bad system.
다한고 예. 다도 도배만 거예요. 산지 이릭 때문에 도망고 쉬워. 도나라 도티 칙 말도 세슈당 칙 누버치슈 도배만 거 도망고 쉬워 또. 내나라 단단데 도디 디간 시라 좀 되는 기도래서 개론 타스로 심이란 시외세하고 내나라 땡겨.
Okay, so when we talk about what's said in the sutra, actually Buddha talked a lot about the nature, right? Our nature. So there's lots of different things that he said about it, but Geshe-la's found, so selected this quote here, which is, monks, pure mind is not this mind. This mind is, sorry, that's not right. That should be the mind. Its nature is clear light.
심마치디 세가 심마치디 세가 아니 지난번도 심이란 시디 외세로 했어.
Right.
아니 심마치세 심이라고 하잖아. 먼저 심 내저치당 아니 심다도 되자시다. 혼로 마기 잘해서 내여로 제주 심돼서 아니 심이란 시가 쇼요 말했어. 심마치디 심디 여자시다 팀은 네거티브 심디게 다란시 내저 심디다마 그 데제 코니 모임에 다시 돼요 말했어. 데메어 인자 아니 그 루루와레스 루루와 그 네거티브 용거리 네거티브 메차로 또 간단지라 이인자나 심코랑 그 다시디 가래라나 외세어레스 심라시 외세어레스
So when we talk about this osa, which is clear light, literally it's often translated as luminosity, right? This is what we talk about, the nature of the mind. But when we talk about it, there's two aspects. There's the nature of the mind, and then there's the delusions or what's stains, sometimes called stains as well, right? So when we look at these two aspects, so Nyaman di Tanchepa di Nelugmarero. Okay. So Tanchepa, so basically it means that the mind's connected with these delusions, but it's not, these delusions are not in the nature of the mind. They're not like at the moment, like for an ordinary being, the mind is connected with these delusions, but those delusions are not in the nature of the mind. So they're adventitious.
그 주란시 말했어. 주란시디 다 길레드레스. 어디나 지금 쌤 기란시디 길레드레스. 아니 묘모 묘고 돼야 돼. 단단 내가 주묘고 잡는 쌤 먼저 묘모게 쌤 묘대로 시지게 묘모데 쌤 기란시 말했어. 주 당원하시에서 빼지세요 셔.
Okay, so to give an example, it should clarify, right? Like when you take water, right? And then it's like if you have muddy water that's mixed with all this stuff in it, right? The mud or the dirt and the water are not of the same nature. They're mixed together. They're mixed up, but they're not of the same nature. The nature of water is clear, right? And yeah, it's not dirty, but the mud mixed within it makes it appear to be that way. So it's kind of like they're mixed up together, but they're not of the same nature. The mud and the water. Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, okay, right. So also you take the example of gold, right? Gold is always pure, right? So or that's its nature, but it can be like buried underneath dirt, or it can be buried underneath the ground. But this is just it's not the nature of the gold. The dirt or whatever it's buried in is not the nature of the gold. This is just like a temporary situation. But the gold itself, once you take it out of the dirt, is like it's gold, or it's pure. Mm. Right. Okay. So I looked it up. Gyulama is treatise on. Yeah. So okay. Anyway, to quote all the quotes from the sutra, we wouldn't have time. There wouldn't be enough time today. So he's taken these quotes from treatise on eloquent continuum. I think is the best translation. Gyulama. Gyu is continuum. Lama means like lama, but it's translated more accurately as eloquent continuum. But this is one text that talks a lot about Buddha nature. So we're using quotes from here. We're referring to this part of this eloquent continuum text, rather than trying to go through all of the sutras, because that would take a bit longer. Yeah. Right. Right. Lassa. Okay. Okay. So this brings us on to the first of the 9 examples that are on the sheet. So the body of the Buddha, literally it means Buddha nature in the translation, in a closed lotus flower. So if a lotus flower, sometimes you know how you've seen them where the petals close up. So there can be the body of a Buddha in there, but we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be able to see it. So this is an example of like a Buddha nature. Like a Buddha nature ki pere. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. So we're just clarifying here. So in the example, in the actual definition, it's in the example that I translated. It literally says the Buddha. Right. Right. So the nature of the body of a Buddha, but this is just a slight differentiation, because some schools believe that it's actual body of the Buddha, and some differentiate between that and the nature of the body of the Buddha. But for the example that Geshe-la is saying, if there was the body of the Buddha in a lotus flower. So it's just a subtle difference between some viewpoints, right? But for now, we just hold that if there's the body of a Buddha in the lotus flower, we wouldn't be able to see it if the lotus flower is closed up.
디 전에 주자연도 전에 주 배치체와
Right,
양저 디 배면나라 산지 구이고 통고 말아
right, right,
전에 주자연도 먼저 줄래야 산지지 리기어와
right, right.
아니 먼저 수부디 당 딱 도자시나 디무디게디 딱 배면나면 더 배면나시자 다 산지지 구나시디 수수 먼저 산지지 리기어와 어때 다 산지지 리기 단단 먼저 통고요 말다 먼저 줄래 요래 먼저 그다 수부당 먼저 도자단 시단단 디무단 저 갑대요 갑대면나 먼저 산지지 리기 통고요 말했다
Okay, so the meaning behind that is like this example, like we have this Buddha nature, but we're not able to actually see it, just as if there was a body of a Buddha in a lotus flower that's closed, we wouldn't be able to see it. So why can't we see it? Because it's obscured, right? It's covered or obscured by our delusions, by our physical body and these things. So because of these things, these obscure our ability to perceive our Buddha nature. So that's...
왜다 배디 메도 배마디 파카제나 산지 구제가 당도
Okay.
디나시 당도 생게 녀모디게 파방스나 아니 먼저 주 생게 누가 심세리 차져와 심세리 차데 아니 제가 산제 모두로 와
Okay. Right. So if in the example the lotus flower was to open, then we'd all be able to see the body of the Buddha inside, right? So likewise, if we're able to remove these delusions, then we'll clearly be able to understand or apprehend the clear light nature of our mind. Sarig, bro? Semgi sarig, yeah. Clear light nature of the mind, or luminous nature of the mind. What translation do you prefer? Do you normally use clear light or luminosity? Both? Either? Okay. You're happy either? Sweet.
So you're saying, just clarifying your words,
Yeah.
saying that the luminous, clear-like nature of the mind is the body of the Buddha?
So
Is that what
the
you're saying?
Semgi Salrig is the body of the Buddha.
Yeah. Well, that's what the example
The
is. What it's
Sangegi Ku.
도나라 배디 꾸란셰
예.
꾸셰데 디 도나라 다라요레 도 산제 구타 지문시신요레
Yeah.
이디상을라 따디 배스 전자데 미마지 가서 신세리기 산제 구타 배던 자오라 배단 전도오라
Right.
그런데 아니 링망고지기 따 배디 따다고랑 되는 주자데 가서 신디 랑게 신디 추구를 했다 신세리기 신세리기 여러 때 추구를 했다 안도 닝마당 가주 디데추로 망고
Right.
그래서 갤렌시거래 이 산제 라심 추구를 했어 나가지고 단다 한국어요 말했어 추구인 거라 추구인 말했어 추구인 거라 저도 수수 산제로 내가 쉬어래
Right.
이나데 먼저 데데 먼저기 갈라고 했으나 이 산제게 누가들 자르미시지게 산제를 스페자고 말했어 그 다시지만 말했어 당연히
Okay.
그놈은 저기 저것이
Look at Sakini. Right. So, yes and no, basically. So, for some people, for some schools, basically, the Nyingma and the Kagyu hold that this nature of our mind, or clear light nature of the mind, is the body of the Buddha. However, for the Gelugpa, they don't actually hold it to be the literal body of the Buddha, because then we'd easily just be in line straight away. So, from a debate, and that's why in this there's the words where it says Dishin Shigpe Ku, so the nature of the body of the Buddha, to make a slight differentiation, because if it's the actual body of the Buddha, then you come into problems like, why aren't we Buddha if we have the body of the Buddha? So like this, so for the Nyingma and the Kagyu, yes, it is the body of the Buddha. For the Gelugpa and the Sakya, it's the Nupara, it's the power of the body of the Buddha, right? Or the potential of the body of the Buddha.
거기서 내도는 캐는 거라 다시 뭐 캐는 거라 그래서 가지고 님마도 다시 뭐 내도는 걸 캐는 거 맞을 때 장대에서도 다시 뭐 말에 공부하신데 되고 공부를 산재 디진식을 릭대로 공부를 미지 산재 문에 말해서라고
Okay, so this the donangla the sangegi cool sungire.
말해 장대에서 하고서
It's like meaning or explanation?
돌아야 장대에도 다 내도는 무슨 이해로
Oh, literal and interpretive. Yeah, I got that.
다시 캐란드 로마스 tempo나시 캐란드 로마들랑 내도체 tempo나시 캐드랑 루머가 공부하신데 딱 계절만 보시 진다시에 그거들을 장대에서
Okay.
돌아
Right. So when you take these quotes of the Buddha or these excerpts from the sutra, there's two ways to do it to understand them. There's literal, like word. That's the word for word meaning, and then there's interpretive. So not interpretive.
다시 캐내래
Yeah, interpretive. The sig tak tak tondak mara di tondak this gombarere this. Yeah. So yeah, some of the quotes, like you take literally word for word meaning, and some of them, then various different monasteries will have slightly different interpretations of the meaning, right? So for this particular quote, the Kagyu and the Nyingma take it literally. When it says it's the body of Buddha, they take it to be the body of the Buddha. Whereas in the Gelugpa school, the different monasteries have slightly different interpretations of the meaning.
근데 이 세상 대해서 맨날하면 최대 산재게 직직 산재게 누버데 산재 캐는 거 그러는데 산재 누버데 산재 말했다 된다들.
Right. So basically, it comes down to this belief of this potential to be the Buddha. Is that the Buddha? Right. So some schools believe yes, some schools believe no. So some people believe the potential to be the Buddha is the actual body of the Buddha or the Buddha. Right, and other schools believe it's not. Right, so that's the first example. Oh, you mean a hive? Hive, like a beehive. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, the metal nang lamane. Okay. Okay. Alright. Okay, so in this it says honey in the flower, right? But Geshe's saying, he says that's fine, you can say it's the honey in the flower that we can't see, but also if you have a beehive, the honey's inside, but we can't see it from the outside, right? So when you look at the beehive, you can't see the honey inside, but the honey's still there. So this is second example. Right. So again, same thing. It's like just as the honey's in the hive, we can't see it. So in our minds is the Buddha nature, but we can't perceive it. Okay. I put barley in a shell, but I think actually it's a husk, isn't it? Barleys have husks. Okay, well, anyway, the meaning's the same. So if there's barley like inside a husk, you can't actually see the barley at this point, right? And it's the same with our minds, right? The nature of our Buddha nature, or the nature of our minds, it's obscured by delusions and so forth. But when we remove those delusions, clear those away, then the nature of our mind becomes clear to us.
지금 그 잔다가들라 세유다.
디 게닉 낭라.
아, 괜히라나 되게 잔다가들 바게트 난다 얘기만 돼. 뭐.
Right. So, like if there's a pile of rubbish and there's gold or something inside it, right? Like a pile of rubbish or some dirty place, there's gold around, but we are not aware of it. So, like here at Chanakuri, there's probably some piles of gold in somewhere. We just don't know where they are.
진짜 대나시 먼저 다 되게 가서 미장 어디에 다 되자시다. 수고거나 미장 레도 와.
Yeah.
아니 대나 심 되자시다. 거랑 아주 저기 미장 대나가 세나시인데 산제기 심 세리기 차 산제기 이거디 이 배된자고다.
Right. So just like that, our body and our aggregates and are contaminated and dirty, right? So like this analogy, yet we have in our nature. Nature is this clear light nature of the mind. So it's the same way. Our kind of this aspect of like contamination obscures the nature of our mind. But once we clear that away, then the nature of our Buddha nature is there.
아, 대표시면이 답변 나오데 싸워라 좀 때려와서 세워 좀 때렸다. 지 팔람당 좀 데나 아주 동말 봐 세워라. 동말 봐. 대나시 아주 생은 나라 심세리 저 산제 누가 되어들. 나 세워 때리고 나시 딱고 통구야 말해서.
So the next example is like jewels, gems or jewels under the earth. Right, so if there's jewels and like all precious gems under the earth, then they're there, but we can't see them. We don't know. We just walk right over them and so forth. Right. So, like this, we have this power to be a potential power to be a Buddha, but because of various things, we're just not aware of it. Like because of our obscurations, we're not aware of this. So, but it's still there.
This is really funny, 소남 전부 유디 아니 통구 있어요. 라고 있어요. 소남하고 오라.
Yeah, merit.
소남다.
Noble.
수 통용. 수 소남다. 봄년에 오이도 너부터 수수 치를 연구 있어요.
Chiloki noble.
너무 연구.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess this is quite an interesting example because sometimes if you have like enough merit, like you have certain merit, then these things like gold or these jewels and wealth will just kind of come to you, right?
I have he been retreated one of the heart in Tibet, and he said just in the heart we see just in the he said there are lots of jewelry coming up, and some people come jewelry display, some people come jewelry stated, and he knows which people have more negative, and there are lots of tip or tip.
Obscurations.
tip you need to do and lamsambe mail service. Go
The
jewelry mail.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so he sees all this jewelry, but when certain people come with a lot of negativity, obscurations, then the jewelry just disappears, right? So.
And I tasing please stand next day you take one. Take one, give me one. He said, no, then you become crazy. He said, I don't know, you become crazy. He lots of interesting story. And I asked him, did you see ghost on it?
Yeah.
This he did ask him, did you see ghost? He said, yeah, I saw it. And what kind of ghost? He said, oh, there are lots of. He literally cried. He said, lots of. He said like that. Yeah, very fun. And he knows it. He did everything he understood. Amazing. And he said, yeah, some people have teaching. Medo come to medo.
Clouds.
Some people teaching but they later and medo come to.
Oh, okay. Like dry up. So some people again like this is you see these flowers, right? But when some people with negativity, negative kind of emotions and that come, then these flowers kind of dry up.
He had a lot of experience in like that.
Like in Brazil, there's some like the place I grew up. I remember that some people say. My mom used to say, "Wow, that person came here, and this flower just died." I remember that.
Oh dear. Oh well,
Getting the same energy.
it's good.
야구에 나? 야구에
Yeah.
뭐라? 두자에 나? 두자에 뭐?
Yeah. So if you have negative energy, then you know this happens. If you have positive energy, then good things happen. But I think these flowers will be good at job interviews, right? It's like, okay, see ya.
You know that the Dharamsala Anga, he had experience. He said that, and he said some people come his heart, you know, and he had 2 roses, and the rose began to sleeping, you know. And some people come rose very very energy. Come, he said, well, he said this rose knows something.
The rose knows.
And I asked him, Rose, what can't see me? He said, seems looks happy. One day he said he never take other people's offering because he had experienced some people so negative people offering him. He like meditation, not really clear see. I told him, this is true. He said, yeah, this reason he never take other people offering. He live very simple. He said, this is better. And I got one yogi story, and he was exactly same wrote this story. 그래서 저는 심디 쪽과에나 아니 수술 맞아 미신의 누구더라.
Allah, something.
수술 녀몬데 숙천부기도 수술 맞아 미신의 누구더라.
Oh, okay.
거기가 누구더라.
Right. So if you have a lot of negativity in your mind, then this actually can be like harmful, like to others.
저는 이다 수술 녀몬 방향을 배전에 세워라.
Right.
미신의 펜도에 치. 수술 녀몬 방향에 미신의 펜도에 치 도고라다.
Right. So therefore, we need to like apply effort to eradicating our delusions or overcoming our delusions, because you know once we do that, then sort of more naturally we'll become of benefit to others. Okay, we're going to rush through these examples, so we're up to smash them out. It's number 6 now. Right. But for you guys, you know, like the explanation is simple, but it's good for you to actually think about each of these examples, right? To give you some conviction or familiarity. Yeah. So then the next example is like the seed. So we can have a seed for a big tree. I guess this is an example of an apple tree here. But the seed is tiny, right? It's a tiny seed, but it has this potential to produce this huge tree with all this fruit and all of that stuff. So in like that, we have this potential, but at the moment it's just like sort of underdeveloped and tiny, doesn't have much power, right? But if we develop it, if we cultivate and develop it and train our mind, then it will grow and grow and grow until it becomes all the way up to full enlightenment.
산지 예외이나 먼저 동호 말와 산지 양지 파 물로 파 그런 두파 세나 안에는 그 동으로 하잖아. 디나시 먼저 둘로 르교 제마진데 먼저 단단 때 먼저 르고랑 제마진에 먼저 르고랑 저거랑 먼저 르고랑 그래서는 르 저거에 몇 다시도 르나네 동양상 장마제 동문다 나 눈에 저것도 미기하는 저것도 진반에 저번에 강반에 증거 서고 가도 장마 수부드네 동양 신부제도 데 저번에 디나라다 산제 리디 쇼대요라고 디 먼저 장마 디 야고 소도이나 디 얘기하나 문에 장마제 누워요
Right. So, next example is like rags or like just using clothing, right? If you have dirty clothing and a body of the Buddha is wrapped in that, then it obscures it. You won't be able to see it, right? So in this analogy, this dirty cloth is like our body, because our bodies are not particularly clean. Like we like to think they're all clean, but we've got snot in our nose and crap in our eyes and stuff in our ears and all of this, and you wouldn't really want to like hang around in that. We always try and clean it out, and I don't think anybody eats it. Do they? Do you eat anything? But anyway, right? Like we have this wonderful fantasy of how clean we are, but we don't really eat earwax for dinner, so maybe we're not as clean as we think, right? It's alright, Pink. It's okay. She's like, oh, that's so gross.
나고 누마 이나 완전 기술 잠바테죠. He told our monastery. He said, and 먼저 동해되면서 오라 부모 미장와.
So the truth of suffering and like how the body is dirty. Right. Okay, yeah, right. So Geshe Davitanja was talking about how the body's and the nature of suffering and how dirty it is. He says it's easy to see how dirty it is. Just look at your snot and all this crap that comes out of your body, and then you try and tell me that it's clean, right?
You don't need to look outside, just look dirty, he said. It's really true. That be 다 분명히 또 나서라. 미다 콜레지 외기고 봐. 분명히 또 왔으니. 나 분명히 해봤어. 분명히 코고에 나가. 아메 코고에. 콜레지 외기 부여라 부치주자라. 콜레지 외기 오주야다. 콜레지 외기 오스니 이제 장생사 통한 사통부터 몇시 연구요 말에. 사통분에 지제 산제 봐도 연구요라. 개wo 두저게 개wo게 세베나 콜레지 개wo semje 망고 라펜도 페나만서 킹 아쇼가 소르데 개wo 송전가 보서 두저래다 두저가 콜레지 개wo라는 디모라
청승 간스 갸버 청승 간스
킹 아쇼가 된다
네
두저로 이제 전부는 개가 망보 want to do to me want to do 버잖아 할래 말아 그 펜도 밀어 이중으로
right
원 동해냐냐서는 대 콜레지 요 말아 대 미트 동해서나
okay
자는 참고서는데 모든 서서 뉴기어예
right
melam 야고 태요 말아 이제 지도 전문이 민마기우스가 melam 야고 태요 말아 선남 첨부제 먼저
right
이나 melam 야고 자요 말아 근데 내가 축처부터 이만 마지부서다 네 가르쳐줘 가서는 코 mellam이하고 꿀로하고 중요한 거 mellam이하고 태요 말아 선남 첨부사 선남
더 말람
선남 첨부사 mellam디 로고자 mellam 야고 자요 말아
스디
아
dependent
베네다노 좀
right okay
아니 마우스 동서
하하
그래서 선남 첨부면은 진짜 용어 말아 mellam이하고 자요 말아
okay
먼저 뒤에 mellam이하고 자고 이렇게 좀 말아
Okay, so then the next example is a wheel turning king in a mother's womb. So basically, if a mother's pregnant with a wheel-turning king, and a wheel-turning king is necessarily a bodhisattva of the path of seeing and above, right? Path of seeing up to Buddhahood. Now, these when they're in the mother's womb, nobody knows they're going to be a wheel-turning king, right? So, wheel-turning king is somebody who is a king that brings, or these days a president or something that brings great benefit to the world, right? Like Ashoka in India is one example. Songtsen Gyaltsen, the king of Tibet. They have great power to benefit others. Now, having the power alone does not make anybody a world-turning king. It's how they use it to benefit others, right? So we can't say Donald Trump's a wheel-turning king, for example, or even a wheel-turning Muppet would be a stretch, right? Because he has the power, but he doesn't really, doesn't seem like he has much wish to benefit others, right? So in cases like that, when they have this power but not using it to benefit others, what's happened is they've accumulated a great amount of merit, but their aspiration or their motivation is not positive, and then they get born with this incredible power, but they don't use it to benefit others, right? So that's very different to a wheel-turning king who has the merit and has this, but uses it as a bodhisattva to benefit others.
그래서 저 지난시 먼저 생각나가 당저 네 고관나가 사제 뉴버디 먼저 통구야 말했어. 네 먼저 대 고관 아마 고관나 부부들라 전부에 원 위에 뉴버 열어. 그냥 먼저 통구 말하지. 지난시 먼저 사제 뉴버디 단도 통구야 말이. 나 마음 봐라. 네 또 전부 차 열에서 먼저 봐.
So like this, right? Like this child in the mother's womb. At the time when they're in the mother's womb, they have this incredible power to benefit sentient beings, right? As a bodhisattva, they have this incredible ability or this power to benefiting sentient beings. But we can't see it, right? Like at that point, we don't see this potential that they're going to have to benefit sentient beings, and it's like that. We have this potential, our Buddha nature has this same potential, but we're not aware of it, and we can't see it because it's obscured.
답변 사오시죠.
Guba. Oh, you only want to do 8, okay. Oh, yeah, it's time. Okay, we'll stop here, and there's one more example. So we'll get that later.